Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be presenting on Propositions 16 and 17. To start, we'll be looking into Proposition 16. So what is this proposition? This proposition actually wants to repeal previously placed Proposition 209 and bring back affirmative action. Affirmative action is being both legally and openly allowed to be either discriminatory or preferential towards someone solely based on characteristics like their race, sex, color, ethnicity, and national origin. Therefore, passing a proposition like this one would allow local and state governments, public universities, and other political entities to use affirmative action. The preferential treatment, or possible preferential treatment, would then be extended onto things such as public employments, public education, and public contracting. So who does it affect? It does affect the general public, but this proposition and its heated debate is mostly centered towards students, and to be specific, Black and Latino students, who actually saw an increase in their admissions after affirmative action was banned. In places like UC Berkeley, their admissions actually quadrupled. So many believe that Proposition 16 will actually cause a decline in their admissions, while others believe that affirmative action could have sped up their overall increase in admissions a long time ago. Does it affect the budget? No, it does not have a fiscal effect on the government, and this is due because if Proposition 16 is passed, it does not create changes to any existing programs or policies and does not even create new programs or policies. The only way it does have a fiscal effect is if states and local entities at their discrepancy choose to create programs or policies designated for specific gender or racial groups, but that is until they implement programs. When is it implemented? If approved by voters, this proposition, alongside all of the other approved propositions, would take effect until late December. Supporters range from our Democratic Vice President nominee Kamala Harris, the Governor of California Gavin Newsom, the Mayor of San Diego Kevin Falconer, the former U.S. President nominee Pete Buttigieg, the co-founder of United Farm Workers Dolores Huerta, and a lot of other organizations like Kaiser Permanente, the ACLU of California and Northern California, the University of California Board of Regents, which is the UC Board, the California NAACP State Conference, the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, and the Chinese for Affirmative Action, but there is a wide range of supporters for this proposition. I've decided to place the ones that the public is most familiarized with, such people as Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg, and bigger organizations like Kaiser Permanente. It is important to understand Proposition 16 because of its complexity. It's a very what-if proposition. And the way that I've decided to showcase its importance is by dividing it between who supports it and who opposes it. So those who support this proposition do believe that America is a lot more diverse now than it was when Proposition 209 was first instituted. So the usage of affirmative action could very well be positive through things such as programs and policies specifically catered for minorities. They believe this is so because if we do continue to adopt a colorblind philosophy, we are opting to simply be blind to racism. But if we allow universities or public contractors to use race, gender, or ethnicity when they evaluate, say, a teacher or a student, they could have many positive effects. One of the most commonly used examples is instituting a Hispanic teacher into a school which only has white instructors but a predominantly Latinx student body. They believe that if this is done, it could have a positive effect for the student body because now they'll personally identify on a much more personal level with somebody that they should deem a role model. They also believe that with this proposition, universities will now be allowed to target certain minority groups who are underrepresented and give them the same academic opportunities as majority groups who are overrepresented, thus to boosting their admission and their education. They will not use your race nor your ethnicity against you, but they'll always be trying to grow alongside of you through the form of policies and programs. So because of this, a lot of supporters do believe that Proposition 16 is fighting directly against systemic racism because it's inclusive to everybody who they believe to have been left behind. Even so, it's always important to understand both points of view, and we're going to be looking into the points for opposed. Those who oppose this proposition believe it does fuel a new type of prejudice, one in which universities or government officials can designate or take away jobs, school positions, or admissions only based on things such as your gender, race, or ethnicity, which a lot of people believe to be superficial factors. Places like UC Berkeley, who did see an increase in their admissions, are believed to actually start taking race as a major factor when they deny or accept a student. And opponents also believe it will be a negative factor because universities will most likely not use it to create a diverse student body, but quite the opposite. Places like Harvard, who have a predominantly white student body, are believed to use affirmative action in the negative way and keep their predominantly white student body instead of diversifying. But that is just an example. They believe that equal rights simply means treating everybody equally. And with Proposition 16, they see a new law that will not treat them equally and could potentially lead to favoring one race, ethnicity, or gender over the other. Simply put, they believe that the government will treat their citizens on characteristics that are utterly uncontrollable by the individual, and thus legalizing a new form of discrimination. Thank you. That is all for Proposition 16, and I pass it along to my partner.
Thank you, Anapaula. So my name is Isabella Gonzales, and I'll be presenting on Proposition 17. As posed on this year's ballot, Proposition 17 will restore the right to vote after the completion of prison term. Some quick background information is that approximately 50,000 individuals that are on state parole are not able to vote. Currently, California state constitution does not permit those in prison or on parole to be eligible to vote. However, if Proposition 17 is passed, it would amend the state constitution. When a person gets out of prison on parole, their voting rights will be restored. Meanwhile, as of now, they're disqualified from doing so. Voting yes on this proposition will allow parolees to reintegrate into society. As a result, we will see an increase in civic engagement, and furthermore, they will feel valued and be less likely to return to prison in the future. Take as an example Richard. He was granted his freedom on parole, but could not vote in California. After learning from his mistakes, he has served his community by developing a counseling program that helps those that struggle with alcohol and drug addiction. In other words, vote yes if you believe that those that have completed their prison term but are still on parole should be eligible to vote. On the contrary, if you vote no, you agree that voting rights should not be restored before the completion of parole sentence. So by voting no, your take on Proposition 17 is that this is not justice. You stand by the idea that crime victims and their offenders should not be granted the same social equality, given that this just contributes to the lifelong pain and misery that victims endure. Vote no if you think that people on state parole should not be able to vote. So, just to get an idea on who the supporters and the opposers are, in favor of Proposition 17, we have Kara Moon Goldberg, who is the president of League of Women Voters of California, Jay Jordan, the executive director of Californians for Safety and Justice, and Kevin McCarty, an assembly member and actually the author of the Proposition 17. So those that are against are Harriet Salerno, who is the founder of Crime Victims United of California, Jim Nielsen, California State Senator, and Ruth Ways, who is the Vice President of Election Integrity Project of California. Now, you may be wondering if there will be a fiscal impact, and the answer is actually yes. So the cost includes that of an annual of hundreds of thousands of dollars statewide, and this is due to the increased workload for county election officials, and it comes in two different ways. So in the slides, you can see how the two basic ways that the money will be spent. So one is election officials would have to go through new voter registrations, and second, election officials would have to send out new voting materials to people on state parole, given that they have not been previously registered since they are on state parole and they're not allowed to vote currently. So that is actually all the information that we have on Proposition 16 and 17. We hope that you guys enjoyed our presentation, and we hope that it will help you in your voting process. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments below, and we will make sure to answer each and every question that we get. And thank you.